thought it'd be great on Wednesday night at the candidate League of Women Voters event.
I'm sorry, I missed your first part.
The League of Women Voters event Wednesday. I
Yeah.
thought it'd be great.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think that this is really shitty that you're another Democratic club within the same city.
Oh, well, I mean, it's starting to happen more frequently.
It's fractured all over the place. It's unbelievable. I mean, I was really active in the Democratic Party. I protested with Gore when Gore the Chad, the hanging Chads, and then through Stuart Garson. I mean,
Tell me
the
about
party
that one.
leaders.
Tell me about the Stuart Garson.
Well, he didn't do much of anything. I think he started to raise money. He was pretty quiet. He wasn't active, but he didn't change much. It just doesn't seem to me that the people who should be making a difference are interested in really making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
It's about as plain as I could say it.
Well, I would say that the Democratic clubs are kind of like a civic organization that every city's got a club, and they have to kind of stay down the middle and not get too, progressive or too conservative. So it sort of limits them.
I don't understand.
But
I don't understand embracing it all. You know what I mean? And more united. Like, why? I don't know. It's been a real eye opener for sure.
Yeah.
In a bad way.
Well, it's we're not going to use any of this. It's just recorded. I'm not going to use any of this yet.
Oh yeah, no, that's okay.
But
it's all right. Yeah, I mean, I was actually thinking on the way over here, how would I tell all of them that they suck? Like,
I want you to, please.
You know what?
Please.
I mean, yeah, it's
yeah. Well, I mean, see, the way what I've experienced, the power is in the endorsing.
It's not even about what you are or who you've been. What it's and about who you know.
They want to decide that. They want a handful of people in the old smoke-filled rooms want to decide. And if you are an organic candidate, sometimes you have to run a couple times and get so much public support that you have to.
Hi.
This is Dean.
Hi.
Our resident progressive trustee.
Very nice to meet you, Dean.
How are you?
How have you been?
Good. Love the glasses.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, thank you.
I noticed that we were previewing you on YouTube.
Yes.
Your glasses, which I love them. You got, yeah.
Yes, I decided to go bold or go home. Anyway, yeah, we were just talking about the Democratic Party.
See, Dean's kind of been my friend all along during this process. Where
nice.
Our parties have we've kind of splintered off, and there's definitely the need for additional groups to come up and see besides the just the cookie cutter Democratic clubs.
And they don't do anything anyway.
Okay. Just to restate that, everyone, Ms. Donegan running for Congress, and this is preaching to the choir. We Democratic clubs
so fractured.
Are so fractured.
Really?
You said that we definitely need to, realize that if people are just going to Democratic club meetings and thinking that's it for campaigning, that's a dead end. I mean,
agreed.
Because there are, basically every city's got like 4 or 5 foot soldiers, who are out there really doing the tough work.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are not even in their Democratic clubs.
What I think is really interesting, it's like, that you'll answer all of these questions for endorsements. And that never matters about anything. In terms of what you stand for, what you've done for a particular group or whatever, it just never stands for anything. So anyway,
well, I ran for city council.
Oh, you did?
Twice in my failed political career.
Okay. No, you have guts for just doing it.
My Democratic, our law director endorsed my opponent.
Who was the law director at the time?
Andrew Beamer.
Oh, yeah.
He endorsed my opponent, and he said to the members of the club, he had no choice. because at that point there was sort of an agreement where we had all Republican
Mhm.
city council members and we had a Democratic director of law. And it was understood that they would give the Democrats the law director title, but then they would not necessarily run any Democrats for city council.
Mhm.
So then in 2017, three of us Democrats ran for city council. Nobody won,
Mhm.
but we started a process. And then 2019, one Democrat won on city council. 2021, another one won.
Yeah.
So now we have a majority city council Democrats in Rocky River. But it was
Yes.
again, it was almost fighting against the powers that be
Mhm.
because they were not necessarily supporting the candidates. And for somebody
Mhm.
to be a candidate is just such a sacrifice personally. I mean,
Well, yeah, that's what I'm
I
saying. You
appreciate
weren't
it so
failed.
much.
Yeah, you weren't failed. You tried. But Andy Beamer came to our city after I didn't win the re-election under Graven, and I don't have any respect for him or the gentleman that came after him, Mike O'Shea.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
we know him.
yeah. Well, I mean, to the extent that we're going to outwork them. That's the thing we always have on our side. That
Mm-hmm.
those are folks that, as Democrats,
Mm-hmm.
the trend is now moving away from
Mm-hmm.
this power structure, and
Do you think? I
well,
think
it's
it's
still there.
another power struck.
No, right.
Again,
But people have not gotten endorsed by the Democratic Party or the Democratic clubs do not endorse candidates, and oftentimes if they
oh, they
the
do.
best you
Oh,
can
they
hope
are now.
well the best you can hope for is that they don't try
Yeah.
to sabotage you as a candidate. That
Right.
if they do nothing, it's almost better.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But they always have their thumb on the scale,
yeah,
you know.
and it's silly. I mean, we're all there's so many things we all agree on as Democrats.
I know, and like I said, I've never seen such a fractured being all over the place. Now Wayne County isn't fractured; they seem to be together. Ashland seems to be together, and even Medina, even though there's some different clubs, they're Democrats. I spoke to there's these terrible House bills that the state, the Charlie Kirk and the allowing ICE to go into hospitals and so forth, and some other very arduous pieces of legislation. And I went and spoke with an all Demo on behalf of some of the folks in Medina that asked me to. And I didn't say I'm running for Congress and blah, 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 because that doesn't do any well. I went and spoke because I was a former legislator for 12 years and a mayor. And this is an all Democratic council that got the help of the people that were behind me. And all the people behind me just wanted a resolution to tell the state, we don't really appreciate this. Resolutions don't do
Charlie
anything.
Kirk
Well, all of them, like
legislation.
280, I think it's Senate Bill 281, and there's like 3 or 4 House bills, and then this new Charlie Kirk, which was co-authored by Mike Davila, which just blows my mind. But um, all the entire Democratic Council would not give them the time of day with regard to these resolutions. And again, resolutions are just making a stand about some things, and they're
Mhm.
Democrats
Like a
being
proclamation,
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
like
yeah. I mean, there's but they're unanimously saying, or a council is saying to whomever, we don't like these things, and we would appreciate you to to not support this and or give it a second pause, kind of thing. These are all Democratic council that were voted on by all of the people that were in the room and wouldn't do it.
Mhm.
It's
yeah,
just sad. It's just incredibly sad. I mean, we've got enough problems. We've got enough problems in this country.
yeah. We're experiencing crisis
Oh
circumstances right now on several different fronts,
my God.
and it's really hard to cover them all. There's so many things that we need to address, and to me, the common theme seems to be there's a need for the Republicans to be cruel to people and to not have any empathy for people undergoing
Mhm.
financial troubles, health problems,
People,
of course,
single
immigrants,
moms, SNAP benefits, feeding
SNAP benefits.
people. I mean, just the basic humanity of things is,
Who would have even thought that that was something that was an issue that you know that there were people that wanted to slash the SNAP benefits, which is just
I mean, so they'll pour in money to these ridiculous things and won't I mean, it's multiple things every single day that's an issue. And I mean, I understand that it takes courage, but it's not courage on the Democratic's part in a certain sense, at least locally, what I've seen. Because of course the states, we just assume it's red because it's all, it's turned red, etc. But I am, I just can't believe. So I always go back to this. So when I was mayor,
Homestead Falls.
Olmsted Falls, I I believed that it was my job to help, with a team of good people to make the citizens' life better, easier, because you can make such an impact locally. State, it gets crazy, and federal, you're like, whatever. But you can really make an impact to the people you see at the drug mart or the gas station or whatever. And it's it was really shocking to be able to do that and see the difference, I guess, in any, you name it, infrastructure, events in the city. But there was one particular piece of legislation that was the human rights campaign legislation about equal rights, how you dress, who you love, what religion you have, et cetera, et cetera. And it was during the reelection year. And you have some folks that are your advisors or that would become your advisors, whether you wanted it or not, right? And they said to me, "Don't do it, Mayor. Don't do it. It's reelection year. Don't even get into this." And I said, "If not, when?" Well, I
Yeah.
mean, the guy who won, used that as well as some other things to play very ugly and dirty. Um, and um, and but I did the right thing at the right that needed to be done. We were the 18th
Yeah,
city.
no regrets at all.
No,
You
no
stayed,
regrets. It
yeah.
hurt
Yeah.
that people who had not only supported me in the 12 years of council, actually it might even be longer, I'm losing track, but it was at least 12. And as the councilwoman who you could call, and I would always call you back, right? Get them in front of council, get things done, and then become the mayor and really make an impact on so many things that, that one particular issue was a thorn. It's like, what audiences can we, use things against people to, whether it's true or not, right? Because we don't even care about truth and honesty, but how that did affect. But at the end of the day, I did the right thing and at the right time, and I was glad I did it. But not that kind of thing doesn't exist really anymore, really, does it? Where you are stepping out and saying things that need to be said or done that other people are like, "Oh, Jesus, reelection year. Oh my God, that's going to make me look like whatever." Right?
Yeah.
There's no time for that anymore, really. As candidates, Democratic candidates,
Mm-hmm.
we can't, just
Mm-hmm.
pretend
Play
like
it
things are
safe.
okay, play it safe.
Yeah,
Yes.
play it safe, or even, well, I guess playing it safe is really putting a nice little bow on it. I think it's,
Okay.
you know what I mean? I think it's worse than that, but I'll go with play it safe
Yeah.
because that's at least somewhat complimentary in a certain
Play-
dark
play it
way.
safe instead of
Doing what you're
lead
supposed to
team.
do
Yeah.
and not worrying about, not worrying about, election or reelection. And everybody seems to me that I'm running into seems to be worried about either reelection or getting election. And I have to tell you, having been involved I started the involvement in the Democratic Party in the late 90s. No, back, because my son was born. When did Gore run for?
2000.
Okay, all right. So it had to be like 97, and I was very involved until I left office in 2018. And
Mhm.
I needed to decompress. I needed to just, be a mom to my son. I always tell the story. I don't know what I fed the kid for 4 years. When he realized, he's like, "You're a good cook, Mom." And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's the first time you ever said that." I said, what did I feed him for 4 years? And he, of course, says, "Hot dogs, Mom." I said, "Oh my God, please keep that down." I did more than that, didn't I? And he's like, "Well, kind of, but."
Well, hot dogs are generally regarded as nature's perfect food. Not hot dogs. Hot
Yeah,
dogs we can generally eat.
that's
I think
funny. That's
hot
funny.
dogs.
consensus on that.
Anyway,
Some
yeah,
say the bratwurst, but
That's what RFK Jr. told us.
yeah. Anyway,
RFK Jr.
yeah,
He can eat
yeah.
like he's the Kobayashi.
Yeah.
And there's like hot dog eating contest.
All right,
Who's
I'm
the
sorry.
expert?
So I'm done. We were chatting and
We're-
chatting, and so,
We-
no,
we were,
that's
but,
fine.
No, that's perfectly fine. And I think I saw that you have recently been endorsed by a nurses organization.
Nurses for America, yes.
Okay.
They're not a financial contributions PAC, but they are a national, so which is good because they think more and more you take donations from big things, they do expect stuff from you. But
Mhm.
it's a national group of nurses that are concerned about policy, public policy, that are involved with the Defend for Public Health, and also want, to elect good, sound candidates. Because a nurse, and it's going to sounds funny because I am a nurse, so why would you say that, Anne? Um, nursing has great characteristics, if of caring for people, of listening, of making things better in whatever role that they're in. And I'm not sure when this group was founded, but I'm very honored to be endorsed by them.
Congratulations. And
Thank you.
so if you were going to do a triage for America, how about that? Huh? A triage.
Triage?
That's what I
to
said.
That's
what
to
I've
assess
mm,
what is urgent right now.
right. Prioritize.
Prioritize.
Keep
in
things
those terms,
moving.
What do you think you'd like to focus on? There's so many things
Mm-hmm.
going on right now.
Well, it's funny because I use the term triage in the League of Women Voters. I said, I am, first of all, the Republicans have shown us time and time again who they were. I don't know why I don't know, we were asleep at the wheel. I don't know what the heck happened, because everybody goes into public service with a good heart, hopefully. I'm assuming. And there's so many things to be done. There's the business of the government, which is fractured in and of itself. But it is important to assess and then come up with, a treatment plan. In other words, an oncologist doesn't say, oh, well, just you need chemotherapy and that's it. No, they're going to work on your diet. They're going to refer you to, a holistic, your mental health. They're going to, suggest surgery and then maybe backed up with something else. And so nurses approach problems as not just, one way. It's got multiple layers of how to fix it. And so, I look at the, besides the horrible, impeachable stuff that everybody in that administration has committed. I mean, let's face it. I don't think there's clean one clean individual who's got the heart of the government.
No,
Uh,
there's nobody. It seems like it's a campaign of cruelty on many different fronts.
it does. I read Pete Hegseth only invited Protestants to the Pentagon for Good Friday. That just crazy, divisive. It is true. Yes, it's divisive, but so besides those things that have to be done, because we need to hold them accountable. We need to expose, the campaign who's funding all of these campaigns, and the grifting that's going on from all of them, really. And there's some on the Democratic side too,
Sure.
but there are some things. So, my first order of business is, really getting the lay of the land very, very quickly. You've got to be a fast learner. And I think being a legislator and as a councilman and as mayor with the executive branch, I have a very good perspective on writing legislation myself and then getting things passed. And so this is a bigger venue, obviously, with a lot more baggage. But take, for instance, the ACA that I call the one big billionaire bill, right? All of that needs.
Puts their own word in the middle there. It's one big.
It's beautiful. He calls it the beautiful bill, which
billionaire bill.
I call it the billionaire bill.
Okay.
It's got whatever you want to call it. I mean, rolling all of that back. I mean, it is interesting to me, like someone like Speaker Johnson, who's got the most to lose in his where he's from and what district he represents, that he could care less in terms of Medicaid and funding ACA coverage. But so anyway, rolling all of that back and really working on healthcare and really working towards universal healthcare. Now, people say Medicare for all.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Well, people say
it's a term that kind of all inclusive, but different interpretations. It's
it is
Bernie Sanders phrase and single payer.
Yes.
Another phrase, but
well,
what is possible? Do you think in the next 2.5 years with Trump in the White House.
Well, I think if Democrats take the House and the Senate, it needs to be rolled back, and people need to get coverage, because taking coverage away from people isn't going to make them healthy America again, right? Period. End of story. Give back the tax credits. Put those people on Medicaid that were on Medicaid. Just resetting it to June 30th as opposed to when he signed it the 4th. And because it's decimating rural healthcare, it's changing the entire paradigm of how healthcare is administered. And anybody at that table, because I've got 30 years of working for insurance companies, as well as a nurse working for, Medicare plans, United Healthcare, CareSource, a regional one, Travelers. So I've worked for a ton of, and I know exactly how they do it. And what seems to be is, let's pay the big guys the lots of the money, and then let's get it out of the little guys because they don't have bargaining power, etc. So it's already been flawed from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And so, working, as you're resetting and, working to change that. I mean, the work requirements that are now Medicaid requires, they still don't even know how they're going to be implemented. I mean, so we have a government that made this huge rah, we passed this one big billionaire bill and everything is going to be great. For whom? The top 1% of the country? That's not what this America is about. So first order of business is really work towards that. I think the second bucket is, getting rid of the worst of the worst, impeachment, whatever needs to happen. They need to account. And some of the candidates that I'm on a panel with, all good hearts, would say, well, that's, maybe that's retribution. And I'm not talking about retribution. I'm talking about accountability. And I think, so that's a whole nother bucket. And then it's working on other things, voting rights, gun control, putting back the, reinstituting the ban on assault rifles. I mean, do we really, allowing Medicare to negotiate with the pharmaceuticals? We've got the highest drug prices in the world. Mm-hmm. So things about Medicare for all, because I don't know how they're using it. The term Medicare. I think Bernie means everybody should have health care, but I'm not sure, because
don't call you a socialist. You understand? That's like the thing that is that on the other side is going to say certain things if you advance to the general.
Yeah.
You say, well, Medicare for all is socialism, socialized medicine. I'm just telling you.
Right. Oh yeah, I've heard crazy. That. Yes, but
the aspects of it. Of Medicare for all, mm-hmm. It's a beautiful thing to me.
Well, and I don't know what people mean by that, because when I hear, being in the insurance industry, negotiating on behalf of hospitals and doctors and DME and all of them, and seeing what insurance companies are doing and knowing the whole operations from beginning to end, I don't know how they pass things, number one, without any of the imperative stakeholders at the table. Like, how is this really going to work? No, let's just say we're going to do it, and then it's a collapse. But when they say Medicare for all, I think operationally, I was just briefed on Medicare. Okay. And for my own needs, as it's, I'm getting the AARP, join us, all kinds of nice things that they remind you of your age. Thank you very much. Okay. But Medicare is expensive.
Yeah, it's close to $200 a month.
Well, and that's just for the basic. Then if you want supplementals, which are really a whole, part of the holistic approach to healthcare, they're costly, and you have to pick and choose, and you can't go up and down. You have to start at the bottom with G and then go all the way up. And so when people say Medicare for all, I'm like, ooh, that's a kind of expensive. What I'm talking about, whether it's two payers, a Medicare-like-ish, and another kind of plan. I'm not sure what any of that looks like, but I do have the experience and the expertise in saying these are the things that providers tell me aren't working in Medicare, or that people tell me that aren't working in Medicare. And I purchased my own health insurance from the ACA as a small business owner. Okay. It tripled. And my deductible went from $500 to $7,000. I can't afford to, I can get my generic drugs for free. Wow. But the rest of it, I can't afford to. There's a hospital, I go to some practitioners at Metro Health, and they're all estimating your bill based on it. And, to see your cardiologist, it'll be $332. And I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to wait on this.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the gas and you look at the tariffs and what they've done to this country and to costs, and we're getting less and less, that I'm making a choice to say, I'm not going to that cardiologist because they're going to want that $332 when I show up, and I can't afford that.
Yeah.
And that's where we are post this, nobody paying attention to ACA along the way. So everybody was asleep, and then he's coming in and he doesn't want all of this, and he doesn't want it for the purpose of it. He didn't create it. I mean, let's face it. And so from that perspective, I'm insured, but I can't get care because I can't afford it.
And then when you're on Medicare, you have to buy a supplemental. Things like vision, dental,
Oh my God,
hearing
yeah.
aids are not covered under
Right.
basic Medicare.
Right.
So
And so when somebody says Medicare for all, I'm like, ooh, are you talking about just the traditional Medicare, or are you talking more about coming up with a solution that brings everybody, a good plan to work with? And again, I don't have problems with work requirements, but they didn't think through, for Medicaid as an example. But okay, to what end? To what kind of work? I mean, easy for me to say, when I've been working as a consultant, I have a healthcare consulting business, but working with some providers, I will say, well, how we can implement the work requirement is, let's go to all of, Bryan and Stratton and all of these places that have nurses that are in training. Okay, take a look at who qualifies for this, and then bring them into the healthcare system, and let's figure out how we're going to do that work. But everybody else, what is all that? What does all that mean? It sounds great in paper. Oh, well, we're going to require them to make, work. Well, a lot of us do work, and some people work who are on Medicaid. Give me a break. So anyway, those are the things that I think need an immediate change. And then, of course, they've attacked civil rights, human rights, voting rights.
LGBT.
LGBTQ, and it keeps getting less and less. I mean, when I passed that, I initiated and had that passed while I was mayor. I couldn't vote on it. I can only initiate it and wait for council to vote on it. And it was unanimous. I was proud to get the Freedom Award from Stonewall Democrats. I was proud to get the Transgender Civic of the Year award, but I don't need that act. They need support.
Yes.
They need the help. The discrimination is, and people aren't even realizing how it's getting sliced more and more and more, because who can report on those little details when, we're bombing Venezuela, or we start this war in Iran, and we don't think through what it's going to do to oil. I mean, it's just a mess.
And the idea that we're now going to be bombing water treatment plants, this is directly going against attacking civilians. There's no way to sugarcoat attacks on facilities like that.
It's a war crime.
It's a war crime.
They're war crimes, yes.
And, our actions, and speaking of war crimes, I have to ask you, I have a lot of animosity right now towards the treatment of the Palestinian people and what occurred to them. I think my personal feeling is it is an ongoing genocide against humans in general in Palestine. And
it's cruel.
It
is cruel.
Your Republican opponent, Max Miller, on the floor of Congress, said that he wanted Gaza turned into a parking lot.
Yeah,
and that's what we're up against.
But how do you even, as a human being, support such a thing?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you say, oh yeah, make it? Those are people. Those are humans. They're kids. I mean, it's been destroyed.
Hospitals,
listen. I understand the Hezbollah attack on. I understand that they attacked them. All right.
No, that also meant, October 7th was a horrible
event.
Horrific events.
Okay,
no
so a sovereign
Which
nation,
Israel allowed to happen. But anyway.
which was what? Say that again. I think it's
Israel allowed that to happen.
Oh, that could be. That could be.
It's in their internal documents. But anyway.
Is it? Well, I mean, there's so much to catch up. There's so much to understand and comprehend. Everything's going too far, but they were attacked. I mean, I was watching something about the capture of Osama bin Laden just recently with Leon Panetta and General McManus.
Master?
Um,
Okay.
and it was about the whole thing. It went from George Bush being at that school when 9/11, and then the dedication of those CIA agents to really find him, and then the guts that it took to, pull the trigger, so to speak. We went after somebody who killed thousands and thousands of our folks. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to the Jewish, they were attacked. All right, so they have a right to defend. But okay, so now it looks like it's retribution.
Yes.
It just looks like it's retribution,
Or
and
expansion.
well, it could be.
They're
It could
going
be.
into Lebanon now.
Yes,
Because,
south of Lebanon. Yes, south of Lebanon. It's you know what I
Yes.
mean.
I don't think we have to decide one side. It's just my opinion that,
Good.
I mean, I condemn all war and violence. I condemn, and personally, my feeling is that I condemn any war actions of Hezbollah. I condemn war actions of Iran and their use of Hezbollah by proxy.
Oh,
Dean, you may not agree with me, uh, but the idea that a country right now
mhm.
has such an influence over our policy,
Well,
that
then,
being Israel, and you can say, I wish folks would just be more open to criticizing the current Israeli government and realize that this is not what the same group that
well,
30 years ago, they've really gone
I,
above and beyond as far
I
as
mean,
atrocities committed.
APEC has money invested in many of the government of the Congress and Senate, and I don't support. No matter what you do, I'm going to support you. If you do something wrong, it needs to be called out. I'm not going to take money from APEC. I'm not.
Okay,
I'm
good, thank you.
and I just.
Or their affiliated groups, or probably some other groups.
Oh God, there's so much
that
dark
keep
money and
trying to, yeah,
ridiculousness, because that's another thing that should be like on the top 20, the dark money that's in politics. Because the other side of that is look at how sad our voting turnout is in general. But going back to, I am going to take money from, Mr. and Mrs. Smith or Mr. and Mrs. Jones or Bobby, whatever. Now it's going to take a lot of work to raise money because, Max Miller has millions, and to stand on the floor, the House floor, sacred. He was elected. No matter how we feel about his policies, he was elected, and he's standing there representing the District 7 and saying, we need to make it a parking
parking lot.
lot.
Yeah,
But metaphor, it doesn't even really make sense.
no, he
Who's
wanted
going to park
to
there?
bomb that.
What does that mean?
He said,
Well,
he did not distinguish between Hamas and the people who live in Gaza
yeah,
at all. And they, quite honestly, the bombing campaign, this was early in the bombing campaign. And to my knowledge, he still does not believe in any accountability of the government of Israel for their actions and the funding of Israel for both offensive and defensive weapons. It seems to be endless. So in Congress, you can do something about that.
yeah. Oh, well, first of all, where's our help to protect Ukraine? We've we've
Yeah.
we've abandoned Ukraine
And Iran,
because
And we're helping the Russians by buying their living materials on their fuel.
well, not only that, but the Russians are giving intel to Iran about where we're located.
Russia's
I
benefit entirely from this war.
This is exactly, and so the fact that first of all, the fact that he ripped up a treaty that Obama worked on, the Iran nuclear deal.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah.
Okay, I
Now he
mean,
wants to make another.
now
He
he
wants
wants
to
to-
make a treaty that already existed,
that already existed.
and he killed. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. In terms of just no respect for the office, no respect for people who went before him, R or D, or if an I gets in, no respect for what it takes to do anything. But what could we expect? He was bankrupt how many times? He's a convicted felon, 34 counts. Oh yeah, right. People will say, but come on, the guy's been a racist since him and his dad were kicking out African Americans.
Yep.
in New York, and
Central
like,
Park 5, the whole. that
oh,
one.
then Central Park 5.
Yep.
And the fact that people that I love, who've, or very close, who voted for this, is really just like, it really kind of turns my stomach, no matter what it is. I mean, if you don't like racist, he's done every single thing that you could do to be a nasty, cruel person, and so fitting any category. So,
Which is a common theme on all of this, isn't it?
I'm,
The strong versus the weak.
oh
in
yeah,
many regards.
and yeah, I just think we're in some really bad shape here in this country. I don't think people really still realize it. I don't think they don't appreciate what a gift, for lack of a better way to describe it, voting is. What a free country is.
Enjoy it while you can. Voting.
I mean,
Assaults on voting. Yeah.
I mean, if you have daughters, I mean, if you don't have daughters, you at least have a wife, perhaps, or you had a mother. In other words, his assault on women, and the I'll grab him by the X. Like, that was like not a non-starter for these people. And you really think he was going to do? I don't think he's had a successcul business, has he? Really?
No, no. Just
Well,
You know what I mean? And so,
I was at a New Jersey Generals game the other day, USFL. No, he won his lawsuit, but the NFL never allowed him to own a team. And he won his lawsuit against the NFL, and they gave him $1. But his
anyway,
the Trump University, Trump Steaks, Trump Water, Trump shoes now, Trump watches. Now they have.
I mean, let's
I
just
love my Trump shoes.
The Trump catheter.
well,
Oh,
let's just go back and think. I mean, I have grandparents that came from Poland and Slovenia. We immigrated to this country. They immigrated to this country for a better life, for peace, for no war, for and he categorizes them, or they all categorize them, as freeloaders. I am working as a nurse, overseeing some folks from Nepal and from Iraq, Iran, and Syria. And it's interesting. They're all legal citizens, so you don't have to follow me, ICE. All right. But they came here, and so I've been getting to know them and doing, clinical assessments on them. But we have this discussion about what it meant to become a citizen to them, and learning English and wanting to assimilate and leaving behind what they knew and loved. That's the kind of country, where people were able to express the views, that there wasn't any impactful. I mean, Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather. I mean, all of these journalists that are now not working for CBS because of the influence in the media and allowing and the grifting. I don't know. I don't think this ends well. I think that we truly have a chance if Democrats take both houses. We have a chance to save it. But I don't know if that's on anybody's, because I'm obviously a political junkie, and so I know the different things. And I have friends who say I don't want to know about it. It makes me crazy and it makes me anxious. But if folks only knew and forgot about party affiliation and just voted on the fact of humanity and not being cruel. I mean, for Max Miller to be proud of his cruelty.
Yeah, well, this is why they don't put him in front of the camera much.
He isn't in front of the camera a lot, is he?
He was on one interview. Laura Ingraham interviewed him on Fox. They gave him a softball interview. I saw that one interview a couple of years ago. But basically, they have town halls. He doesn't show up. He's an empty chair.
Right.
And he will not debate.
Right.
If you advance to
that's really, yeah.
Well, probably will not debate.
Well, listen to this. So in his freshman year in Congress, he was the 13th most absent congressman during votes. Think about that. Most absent in voting. That is like his main job. Go there and vote. And you were the 13th. You're rated 13. Then he's kicking around now some amendments and some bills, but for the most part, he just signed on as a co-sponsor to everything. So he didn't even work at what are the, representation is about representing District 7. It isn't about representing, now you have a holistic approach when you're voting on, AK-47 ban. You've got to take into consideration Massachusetts and Texas and you know, because I describe that as a council at large. There are things that could be done for the entire city, or things that could be voted on just for a ward because it doesn't pertain to anything else in the city. So there are those things that you will have to vote on that are widespread impact: healthcare, gun control.
So I didn't understand the AK-47 reference.
Um, the AK-47 reference is that it's just not going to help and affect District 7. It's going to help and affect the entire country.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So, so there's the things, but he's not done one thing for District 7. I mean, maybe a little bit from farmers, but that was all taken away when Trump came back. I mean, the farmers are hurting, the rural communities are hurting. We take away mental health, money, substance abuse. We bomb.
Fertilizer.
Well,
I meant the uranium where it's going to
Oh,
affect it.
it's already affecting.
Fertilizer are fossil fuels from
Yeah.
the Middle East, right?
I think we all know that.
I don't know. I mean, you've got to be
Fossil
there.
You know that he said that? I think we all know that, Rob.
That's funny. I don't think that. So, like for instance,
Okay, Mr. Smart Guy.
yeah. So he's not written any meaningful legislation to really impact District 7. He's remained silent on the killing of those folks in Minnesota, the horrible treatment of ICE. He's remained silent on all of those things. I did see he's getting involved with the woman in Parma on the school board, and I don't know much of the
Really?
yes, she's has to serve, and so there are people trying to oust her from her seat. Now, I haven't studied it, but he did help her get a seat. So there must be some connection there. But he's now speaking up, and he's going to ask the Department of War. I mean, the Department of War.
Defense.
It's Department of Defense, Max. I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Well, they're defending the Gulf of America, another name.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's just so much content, right?
Yep.
But then, going back to it, so it's rolling back the ACA. It's holding these people accountable, but then it's working on meaningful things. Gun control, voting rights, civil rights, not just including, the black and brown, but the LGBTQ, all of those folks, anybody who's affected by inequality, if you will. I mean, we're rolling back and we're saying, women now, if you have a second name, you've got to do all of these things for voting. I mean, it's insanity. And I don't know.
Yep.
I can't believe some of the folks who are allowing this insanity to continue, other than the fact that they want to stay in office and they're grifting as well. I don't know what the motivation is. Like,
The assault on voting rights, and there was an accusation that somehow Democrats are loading up the elections by having immigrants
Oh my
register to vote, and in which case I'm thinking, well, if you vote, then you have to serve jury duty. Are we going to see a lot of like Mexican juries?
there's no voter for how many?
There is no.
There's no. I mean, 64. I heard 64 cases. I mean, I lost track in.
64, yeah.
I lost track in the 30s.
It's a
All right,
false- there's no voter
64 cases in which he, which they proved there was no voter fraud. Yet he's telling everybody. And let me tell you something: people with the microphone sometimes, and people don't research anymore, and they believe what they hear. And you say it enough, they'll
yeah.
believe it.
Yeah.
And that's another issue here. We're irresponsible voters in general, not all, but I forgot it was make it a national holiday. Allow everyone to vote,
Election day should be national holiday. That's
right? I mean, why not?
what's the downside of that?
Well, you brought up something if I might intervene.
Sure, please.
It seems to me, perhaps the Democratic Party does not have a clear, concise message that they're presenting to the public. Or, on the other hand, people just might not be paying attention. And either way, it's a bit of a problem. I'm not saying you. I'm talking about Schumer and Jeffries, and for some reason, I read a lot about politics, so I understand what the Democrats do, and they, as many problems. I'm not really a Democrat, and I have problems with them, but there are good things that they do.
Mm-hmm.
It seems mostly protecting what we have more than having that great vision.
Mm-hmm.
So important things like protecting Social Security and Medicare and all that.
Sure.
These are very important things, and they do them. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be resonating with the public. Um, and I'm not sure it's the Democrats' fault because sometimes I'm talking to people and they just don't have any grasp for the issues. And I think, is it the Democrats or are people just not paying attention? So,
That's a very interesting perspective because and you hear that from the news media, well, the Democrats just need to get a stronger message. They're always putting that in there when they're talking about Democratic policies, or what they stand for. But, maybe perhaps um, I'm a Democrat that embraces all of those things. And so I don't get what they're talking about. In other words, I agree with you. Is it really the Democrats' fault? Because I think they stand for affordability. They stand for fairness. They stand for justice. They advanced, you know, many things. And I think that we've got complacent. People
Well,
aren't paying attention because now I may not hear that in everything that they say, and I don't have any comment about Chuck Schumer. I'm a little bit shocked at the criticism of Hakeem
I think Bruce in the
Jeffries.
House.
He's got a lot of criticism,
Well,
and what I read the criticism of is he's being too mean. You know what I mean? In other words, he's. But haven't we played fair enough? Haven't we? I'm not saying fair is not the right word, but don't some people, if they're getting beat up by a bully, said, "All right, son, I want you to go back and I want you to hit him harder." Okay?
but I don't think Jeffries has done that.
You don't?
well, I
Not
think
at all.
And
it was,
people,
it was a big deal.
I could be wrong, but I haven't seen it.
like, I want to ask all of these folks, what can he do?
We've spoken
Well,
about this.
stop, you know,
He did
at
not
least
endorse
stop
it.
approving military to Israel, sending missiles to Israel,
Mm-hmm.
standing up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, you know,
Mm-hmm.
he just has not
Hmm.
seemed to have a strong voice. He seems kind of in the shadows a bit.
Hmm.
He did not endorse Zoran Mamdani.
He did
To the
not.
very end of his New York mayor campaign, he waited on the sidelines. And he's incredibly popular now, the new mayor of New York City.
Oh my God, he's incredibly
And,
popular.
he's one of those victories that I got to say, the Democrats need to feel pretty good right now about the results of elections that have taken place in 2025. I would put, my feeling was that Mr. Mamdani's election in New York City was big. But then, of course, Chuck Schumer endorsed, I believe he endorsed Cuomo. I'm not positive, but Hakeem Jeffries did not come out to the very end to endorse Mamdani. And so that left a lot of, to me as a Democrat, I thought that was, he was trying to ride the fence, and this is really not the time for that. I mean, there's just too many things.
Yeah,
critical going on.
Jeffries and Schumer have caved
Well,
to Republicans when they say they're standing up for something.
and they don't.
And
Oh,
they
I would agree with you.
back
They
down.
have caved.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would. I'd have to really think through and do some more reading if Hakeem Jeffries really caved. I mean,
Well, Schumer definitely did.
Schumer absolutely did. And I mean, and what does caving do? It makes you look weak. I'm a contract negotiator. When you're bad at something, you bat back, right? You bat back with maybe something tougher, or maybe some resolution that you then both can agree on. But you don't cave from public pressure. I actually think that it would be hard for me to think of someone in Washington that is not geared towards something, or a person, a favor,
Beholden to corporate money
corporate,
or
and
special interests of their region, of their district.
yeah,
Maybe the prison system right now, it's crazy the amount of money.
mhm,
The Congress folks are trying to get prisons built in Louisiana for Mike Johnson. His area, all this money is pouring in because of our, building of prisons and detention centers. And so, but Democrats, I think the message, they're letting Republicans define the message. They say, well, Democrats believe in this, this, and this, and we don't speak enough about what we truly believe in. So there's a void. That,
Mhm.
I mean, I just, I agree that we need to do more from our leaders of the House and the Senate just to clarify that. Here's what we truly believe in.
Yeah, or address it. Or address it. I don't know what else. And you were correct about stop funding the war to Israel. I agree on that. You're right. Um,
Yep.
and but we're in the minority. The Republicans control, all three houses, right?
For the executive, yeah,
And the
all
only
branches
thing
of-
that Democrats can do is vote against it strongly.
I understand.
And yeah,
I understand.
yeah.
It's a tough battle.
Yeah.
But the majority is only like 2 or 3 seats right now in the
Oh, I
House.
know, I
Is that
know.
interesting? That
Mhm.
they actually have to have people, you mentioned Max Miller missed votes. There are people who are basically so ill,
Mhm.
but that they almost have to go from the hospital. Republican Congress people go from the hospital to
Vote.
Washington, D.C. to vote in certain cases because there's such a thin margin. Um, so it's certainly within reach, isn't it, that the Democrats can retake
Mhm.
the House. And District 7, boy, if we could turn around this district, it would really send a message
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
the nation about what is possible.
Exactly. And let's face it, he's part of the Miller family. He has millions and millions and millions of dollars already in the bank to run his campaign. I suspect it'll be very dirty. Um, and
You can expect that, I'm afraid. That
oh,
if
absolutely.
it gets the general, that's where the funding is going to come in.
Mhm.
The money is going to come into negative ads
Mhm.
towards you. So
Well, that's why I attacked head on. I took on police corruption. I mean, it's a under 10,000 community, under 10,000 people, 4.1 square miles. And the police had a routine of not working. I won't say the rank. Let's just put it this way: the rank. Um, Not that police officers weren't dedicated in Olmsted Falls, but a cancer can spread quickly, right? So we have this corrupt police department where we've got somebody watching cheerleader wardrobe malfunctions. Who's supposed to be overseeing the team. We are watching. Okay,
Sorry, what? What?
but Olmsted Falls
Olmsted Falls Police.
police who were involved in lewd conduct.
Corruption, just not being
Corruption.
police officers. They so
Like the cheerleaders in the schools in Olmsted Falls?
so no. It
Sorry,
was
so
a
weird.
video.
Okay.
It was a video that an officer was watching during hours,
Yeah,
cheerleader wardrobe malfunctions. Some
Oh,
YouTube,
okay.
some Buford lawman, Rough and Ready cartoons. I mean, I'm old enough to remember Rough and Ready cartoons. We have sleeping. We go home and sleep. We go to our girlfriends. While our wife's working and we're supposed to be working, we go to our girlfriends, which had been going on for a very long time, but not on my watch.
Mhm.
Not on my watch. Now, I could have looked the other way and had it easy, not ruffled any feathers, but they needed to be ruffled. Whether or not we're a crime ridden community or not, patrolling the streets, being more community based officers. So I took them on, and it was a horrendous experience for my son and I. Horrible. But I didn't have law enforcement behind me. I didn't have, but we won. We got the bad out, and we were able to turn the police department around to the point of me getting endorsed by them during reelection. But
Beautiful.
you're
Yeah,
supposed to do things while you're there.
yeah.
Okay. I think the guy that came after me for 8 years just finished my projects. Seriously.
Like,
It's just so, and this is another good example of telling people what they don't want to hear, because that's what a good leader or a good elected official does. I mean, it's just not all, rosy. So we had the last bit of Olmsted Falls that weren't connected to real sewers. And I think this speaks to my character.
the septic system.
Septic
Okay.
system still spilling sewage into the west bank of the Rocky River for years, getting fined by the EPA. Now, of course, the mayor that was before me, that wasn't necessarily public, but I get into office. We need, we're getting this EPA violations for doing that, and we had to redo the project, etc. But during the reelection, there were, this group, because obviously it's going to cost them money, like it cost all of us when sewers came. I mean, I originally had a septic system. And so we went through the process. We went through it, honestly, transparently. And they're like, no, I'm not going to vote for you because you want us to get those sewers. And we don't need those sewers. We could do X, Y, and Z. So the guy after me is like, oh, yes, you don't need sewers. You don't need sewers. It wasn't 9 months later and they were digging for sewers. And I thought, yeah, And that's, you can't please everyone. And so if you're honest and you've done what you needed to do to make something better and you relay that, there are going to be a group of people that says, so what, I had to get sewers and I didn't like you that way or I didn't like you because you're the first female that was mayor. I don't like that.
Yeah.
It's just an incredible, and now being a part of this race, which is a whole different pace, and, going to, ward clubs and that kind of thing, and, doing forums, it's really a different environment, with people's opinions, how the clubs are run, fracturedness everywhere you turn. And, again, I bring it back to representing Wayne County's needs are different than Western Cuyahoga County's needs. Medina needs are different than Ashland's needs, and so you have to really look at those as, what is the most important thing for this group? What's the most important thing for that? And you've got to get that information from them because that's representative government. And then you've got to be present in their district. I mean, I don't know what the budget is for having staff and so forth, but I plan on having offices in every county and if I don't have enough money to staff, I'm going to go to the brightest college kids that are poli-science majors and have them work in the office learning, representation. I mean, there's just so many different ways to cut, to slice something. And, those are, how, what are you going to do, Ann, about the college students leaving Ohio? Well, we need to find out really why. We think we know why they're leaving. Let's really find out why they're leaving. And they're probably different in all community with some similarities. So find out what that is. I mean, it's really assessing all of the situations and, knowing about it, knowing what you're, working on, knowing your job duties as a legislator and, in some cases, financial oversight. But then finding out what those needs are to that particular area.
Yeah, it's such a diverse district up here in Rocky River. Obviously, we have different priorities than farmers or people in rural areas, but there's a lot that we can all agree on, and candidates who can hit all those different counties and listen, they're going to
and bringing money back into the district. I mean, so it's so what kind of needs do the communities have that bringing money back to make infrastructure or to make that's important too. That's an important part of being a congressional candidate, understanding the needs of your community and where you can bring back money to help with projects. You do that.
Yeah.
Do you think that the issue of data centers is an important issue as to rural areas being right now? Should there be more regulation? Should they be banned, or should they be allowed to just continue to grow without any regard for the environment or the needs of the communities? They really don't employ that many people. Right?
No, and they consume. Consume so much. So whether or not I don't know all of the details to ban them, but clearly it is detrimental to a community to allow these data centers. And this may sound crazy to you both, and maybe whoever's listening, but anytime you call AT&T, 9 times out of 10 you don't get anyone from this country for customer service. The health plans, you call for customer service. I was going to say I call Care Sources customer service. You don't get anybody in this country. All right, they're employing all kinds of people outside of this country. Why aren't we bringing those jobs to begin with back here?
Sure, good question.
Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, no offense to all of those folks who are being, employed all across the world, but that's not my problem. America first here. Why aren't we demanding? Yes, I know you're probably getting it real cheap, but you know what? It's hurting your product. It's hurting your product. How is it hurting? Um, the language issue, the intent of language issue, and those are really good jobs to say, no, you know what? I think we need to take a look at why all of these companies are getting their customer service that's outside of this country, and why aren't they here? At the very least, it has to do with money, right? It's got to have money, but too bad. We need America First policies.
And it's truly an American first policy that has substance.
Exactly.
That's a lot of jobs.
That's a lot. Are you kidding me? That's a lot of jobs. And you get, I mean, honestly, I had this, and I'm an educated consumer of health insurance, very educated, in terms of how they all work and how they fob you off to a million different places. And I was trying to get one thing resolved. And I spoke to about 6 different countries. Couldn't speak to anybody here in Ohio where they have their home office. All right. But I'm speaking to all of the, and the language barrier and the product that they were allegedly representing to help solve your issues. There was that barrier of the industry. So, in other words, they didn't have enough knowledge about the healthcare industry to be successful customer service folks to try to help you solve your ACA issue with a claim or with an issue of some sorts. So there was not only the language barrier, but it was also the product barrier. They truly didn't understand what you were asking. AT&T the same way. Trying to get someone out for a downed telephone pole was like here and here in that country and this country and that country, and let me transfer you here.
Wow.
I just, and it's funny because I was interviewed with the Angry Democrat, and Matt Deemer said to me,
shout out to Matt Deemer.
Yeah.
Excellent work with his interviews also.
Yeah.
The
the Angry Democrat. And I said, I'm an angry Democrat as well. Hey, listen.
Substack, the Angry Democrat.
But he said to me, you must be having a problem with customer service. He's like, I've never thought about that, or something to that effect. And it seemed like within like several weeks, I had lots of issues with different companies that I either purchased something from, or and I was, and again, an educated consumer, particularly in health insurance. And I ended up making a complaint with the Ohio Department of Insurance because I couldn't get any relief from the customer service in India or in, the Philippines or in anywhere else. And it was because they didn't understand the basic product either. In other words, to be a successful customer service person, you've got to know what you're trying to solve, or the product that you represent that you're going to try to solve. You can't get anywhere with anybody.
Yeah.
So I say, bring all those things back. And, I know, Trump, you can do your red hats in China, but how about we start by looking at how can we bring some of those back, particularly, the large organizations.
Yeah. I just want to mention that Max Miller's family owns a company that makes caps, baseball caps, things of that nature. That and they have I think the U.S. Postal Service is an example of a big contract they have. So they have, although their plant is located in Cleveland, they have foreign workers who come in every day and do the piecework. And in this case, they've chosen to not allow Cleveland workers or Ohio workers. So their labor force is basically being outsourced, yet physically located here. And that's just a situation where potentially companies could hire more people that, as you're describing. So there are circumstances where American workers are being overlooked from companies doing phone technical support and within our country. So that's the thing. And that's the thing that I guess if you're from a certain country, you're not on Trump's naughty list, But if you are an immigrant from other certain countries, you are. But you can talk about the subject of visas and immigration. A lot of folks are just overstaying visas, and
Mhm.
a large percentage of the it wasn't a border issue. It was not necessarily an issue of Mexico or Central America. There were just a lot of people who are and still are in other countries, taking advantage of our system in that regard.
Yeah. Well, let's look at immigration for a second. So this has been an issue for how many years? Lots of years, right? Immigration has always been some sort of an issue. And I think it was Obama um, that placed people back in their countries more than anybody to date. Um, what's the word? I can't even think of it. Oh my God.
Exporter in chief.
Oh yes, he was known as the exporter in chief. Yes, exactly. All right,
Do
so
we really want a Ku Klux built by Americans, or is it okay to have Germans? It's like a trade deficit.
so immigration. So let's take a look at. So finally, he was
Well,
he was exporter in chief. They had called him
Okay.
they called him
That's
that
fair, yeah.
for the illegal issue.
Uh-huh.
Obama.
Yeah.
And I don't know the numbers, but this is what I've read. So we have a bill that goes into the House. It gets bipartisan support. 6 months before Trump was elected, this immigration bill, one little step forward, bipartisan, which means both people had to give. All right, and Trump kills the bill because he wanted to make that issue an issue for his campaign.
That's right. Yeah. Well,
Okay, so people aren't even connecting the dots here.
Well, he didn't come up with the idea, so it doesn't count.
Well, and that's a whole nother problem. That's why the Iran nuclear deal was ripped up. Look at our relationships with NATO. But let's just take the bill that was bipartisan. He managed to get Republicans not to vote for the bill that they helped draft. Okay, so
About the immigration.
the immigration bill.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of power does he have over these people where he's not even president and he's telling them what to do?
Well, and not only that, what about the people that are supposed to be paying attention to this country, who've got the privilege of voting, who aren't even connecting those dots? All of a sudden, nobody remembers this, and they're saying, yes, Democrats, we let illegals in, and we want them, just to come free. Who wants that? No, Americans don't want. I mean, Democrats don't want that. Democrats don't want people who rape and kill in this country. Democrats want, immigration, border patrol, but there needs to be a pathway to citizenship that's faster, more judges, look at the process, look at all of those issues and really drill down to what's causing this holdup and then fixing it. No, it becomes some ridiculous political posturing on who has the microphone. And again, I can't say that Democrats didn't stall this or stall that, but that is just a good example of many things. They had a bill, both parties worked on it, they advanced it, Trump kills it. People who are watching this can't remember that just happened, and they're saying, they're agreeing with Trump that Democrats just allowed everybody in, and da, 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 da. They're not even connecting the dots that it could have been solved, at least this first step of immigration. And so you've got what does he have over on them? Because they now don't want to solve anything.
They'll primary them.
Oh, absolutely.
And so
And
people are just quitting.
look at the Cornyn.
Or they're agreeing, falling in line with
Look
Trump.
at the Cornyn and that other.
John Cornyn, and that's a
And Nichols.
good example.
Is that Nichols? Is that guy Nichols or?
Is that Texas also?
Yeah, that's oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, but John Cornyn, a longtime ally, but now he's being
Ostracized.
right,
Yes.
because he wasn't loyal enough.
All of it's so anyway, to just follow and finish that line, but there's so many things that could be done with the immigration system that they're not even nobody's letting the people know exactly what the problem is. Do you know what the problems with immigration? Not until you research it do you find out what the different.
I know the benefits.
Well, right, but
benefits to a pathway.
I mean, far outweigh any.
Of course,
but
no, you're right. But why isn't it going as fast? Why are people in this status for 15 years? Not enough judges, not enough. It needs to be revisited, revamped, and then put forward to the American people, like you would do on a basic, if you're a responsible city councilman or mayor, and saying this is what we're doing, this is what it does, and this is why it's important. Buy-in from the people. There's no. So we allow all of this crazy rhetoric to interfere with solving real problems, and I want to solve problems. Look at the affordability issue. There's a candidate who says, we need stronger unions. Well, they're the working people. Well, I'm not in a union, but I'm telling you, I've been working since I was 13 years old. Okay. $1.50 at Dairy Queen, mind you, 3 to 11 shift. It was horrible. Oh my God. But I've been, everybody works. We have to solve the problem for the working people, which includes the unions. Right.
Absolutely.
But for some reason we're overlooking everybody else that's not in a union that's working their tail off.
Exactly. I was going to say that I've always felt like gig workers need to unionize in some way.
Mm-hmm.
People who are in big companies that don't have unions.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a company called Intuit, who is an employer of TurboTax.
Yep.
And they need to make significant changes to employee say. And if unionizing is not a possibility, then at least more accountability. And to just be corporations. And so we have gig workers. I've always felt also the franchise people who own franchises. The franchise system is set up right now to force people to not get paid a living wage themselves. You can say I own a business, I own a few franchises, but the power rests entirely in the franchisor company,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no rights of people who own franchises to stand up against. It's really like you can work your whole life as a franchise operator and never make a decent living because the agreements are so restrictive. So, but who's speaking up for the rights of people who want to
Who don't have that protection,
small business. I just want to think about it. In addition to union employees, so many people are employees who are self-employed in some way.
We've got to demand better. We got to demand.
It's fine. This is low battery. We're still good.
We've got to do better for everybody, except millionaires and billionaires. They don't need any help, right?
No.
Okay, it's all of us, looking at Social Security, raising and or eliminating the cap, look at the minimum wage, raising it and putting a percentage increase that occurs on an annual basis so it doesn't always become a hot potato, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was in mayor, I took seriously, when I was council, I made $154 twice a month. I changed that. Why did I change that? Because it was always a political hot potato. Oh, you want to, so the person who's going to run against you is like, oh, see, you want more money for what you do. And then, so I said, no, we're not going to do this. I'm going to institute, based on human resource data, other data collected. I initiated a pay scale for all of the staff, and particularly for council, a percentage increase on an annual basis so it keeps up. All right, it's the same thing that we can do on, this minimum wage. I mean, people are trying to live on minimum wage.
Yeah, which is in Ohio, what, $7 or something?
It's horribly
The
low.
federal minimum wage would be like 15, 20.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Good start, right? You have $15, $20 an hour. I mean,
They're trying to raise a family. Some people on that. That's ridiculous. And holding these corporations a little bit more responsible for some dignity in the work and whether you're a union or not.
Like dignity of work is a slogan of Sherrod Brown, who we support for Senate in Ohio. And he's always someone that I support as well. When you made that expression, seems to be a common theme among Democratic candidates like yourself to
but it's
speak out for workers' rights.
Well, but beyond the unions, though, beyond the unions, what can we do to make sure that folks who are working aren't in shambles just because they're not unionized? Do you know what I mean? And I don't know, I don't have the answer, but I do know that this position requires a generalist. And what I mean by generalist, understands the responsibility of being a congressman, congresswoman. It is understanding your district needs and then being able to digest all of the issues that people are having problems with. So, not just education. Education is a very important part, but education maybe in college or education in trade schools. All right. Advancement. Look at veteran care. We slashed veterans care. Nobody's worrying about their housing or their mental health or the substance abuse. These are people that served. our country defended it. There is a vet that I see often on 150th and 71. He lost his leg. He got a divorce. All of his alimony payments come from his check, and he's out begging for money with 2 plastic bags in the rain. All right. Some people say, oh, that's just drugs or whatever. No, that's the reality of some of how these veterans are living. And that is wrong. That is such a disgusting behavior for people who have gone over and suffered, and to protect our freedom, to help our allies' freedom, and just taking a look at that, I think our country needs to do so much more.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for saying that. Well, we're going to probably wrap up here.
Okay.
But what I'd like to say is invite you to come back again,
Sure.
either before or after the primary. And you are, happy Easter to you.
Happy Easter. Yeah, I got my basket blessed today, which is all kinds of traditional pickled eggs and a poor man's cheese called sidok, which is just eggs and kibasi and ham and all, Pasca bread. And so, yes, that was kind of cool to continue on that tradition. But happy Easter. And anytime you'd like me to come back, hopefully I'll be the victor in the primary, because I truly believe I'm the only one that can beat Max Miller.
I mean,
because
why do you believe that?
Because I understand. I've lived what the district feels. All right, I was on Medicaid once. Okay, I get it. I'm purchased through the ACA. I get it. I'm a woman. We have a lot to say. I'm a small business owner. I'm a nurse, which makes me be able to take a look at something and see multiple facets of it. And I think I'm outspoken. Occasionally I might get my foot stuck in my mouth, but I generally apologize if in fact I do. But I think, I just think I have I just think I have a better grip of what's going on, and my background is well suited for representation, and my record as a councilwoman and a mayor speaks for that. So I think my message to people is going to resonate. His does not resonate. It's not about, he doesn't have any, he just has money to, to portray that there's all these things that he's doing or whatever. Somebody said to me, well, he puts out a newsletter. I said, so what? What is, do you know that he was the 13th most absent in his freshman year? And they're like, really? You know that he doesn't have an office, that you can get him anywhere. You get a voicemail, and you get a canned email that says, thank you, I take everything under consideration for my constituency. And it's used for everything from healthcare to gun control. I mean, it's ridiculous. We have to be more responsive to people's needs, especially now. So it was a pleasure being here. Thank you both.
Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing.
I'm trying.
What you're doing, and
thanks.
Really, everything you're saying is definitely a message that we can get behind.
And I hope some of it sounds like a Democrat. I hope some of it sounds like an independent, and I hope some of it sounds like a Republican. Because to truly represent, fiscally responsible, fiscal oversight, they generally think that's only the Republican. Well, no, that's a Democrat too. We don't want to, so in terms of the audience, it may look like all of those different things, but I am all of those different things. But I do believe, and have been a Democrat my whole life, and I do believe that we are the party of fairness and justice and equality and the fabric that makes up this world, this country, at least of what it's used to be known by. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Nice meeting you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And we'll put your links.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.